everyone. I wanted to thank you very much for subscribing to my page or being linked to this in some way. And I want to thank you for your time to watch this. Um, I had started the page a few months ago to just to post some Zoom videos I had been teaching people because I had been being asked it so much. And it sounds like it's been very, very popular for a lot of people, and I'm very, very thankful. And then I posted something about Eris, using Eris for coordinators. So I promised myself I was going to try and do one of these a month, but then the holidays hit, and of course we're all busy right now. So I wanted to send something out there, even though I haven't had a lot of time to prepare. So I went into the Chris Draconi presentation vault to see what I could find, and I decided to share this with you. So these slides are actually from several years ago. I think like it's been 4 years now, for a webinar I did for the AAN coordinator group. So I thought it would be useful here. So let me just share my screen here. All righty. There we go. All right. So this is on professional development for coordinators. And I get asked a lot about how can I get involved in professional development? You know, how can I build my resume, and how can I get involved in just doing these experiences? And so I made this presentation to help with that. So this is how to take your first step towards your future. So I should say that if you don't know already, I do have a consulting company. And that is like the only disclosure I have, but this has nothing to do with that consulting company, even though I guess I'm consulting you, but not really. So anyways, so this is the agenda. I'm not going to go over it because we're going to go over it in detail here in a second. So the goals of the webinar today is to understand what professional development really is, learn how you can build a resume specific to an academic medical administrator, learn how you can obtain experiences for professional development, including posters, presentations, papers, committee involvement, and of course, leadership. And then learn how to apply for these opportunities and manage the time to do them. Because I get asked a lot of times, what's the time commitment? You know, am I going to be able to do this? All that sort of thing. So let's define professional development. Now, it looks like I have on some animations, so they may act a little crazy because I don't know how to edit in OneDrive, so I apologize. So professional development is defined as the process of improving and increasing capabilities of staff, any staff, through access to education and training opportunities in the workplace. This could be through an outside organization or within the organization, or also watching just others perform the job. Professional development helps build and maintain morale of staff members and is thought to attract a higher quality staff to an organization. So who benefits from professional development? Literally everyone. So if I go out and get some additional professional development, no matter what it be, through experiences, education, whatever, I am obviously personally going to benefit quite a bit, but those around me are going to benefit, including all of you guys, my program directors, my other coordinators that I work with, and so on and so forth. And obviously my trainees. The growth and development of people is the highest calling of leadership, and that is very, very true. And I always see this cartoon all the time, and there's a lot of truth behind it. What if we train them and they leave? And the other guy says, what if we don't and they stay? And that is like really, really true. I can't tell you how many managers I've heard throughout my years, even not in GME, that said, well, we put a lot of investment into that person. They just left us after 3 months. But you have to take the chance, because if you have somebody, you know, if you take the other road and you don't want to train people or don't want to build them up, it's just going to hurt you in the long run. So what are different types of professional development? So first of all, there's sources of where you can get professional development, and that's like where you find things. And literally it can be anywhere, but these are just some more popular ones within the world of GME. And that is your department or within your program, institutionally within your organization, regionally within your city or town or state or whatever, and of course nationally. So there's all different types of professional development, but these are the ones I'm going to focus on. And this includes committee involvement, leadership, presentations, papers, both peer and non-peer, books and posters and certification. So let's talk about resumes and CVs. Sorry that you saw the Tufts logo. That when I originally did this, I was working at Tufts. So resumes, what's the difference? So a resume is usually used to obtain a job. So the resume just reflects your work experience, which can be very good if that's what you're looking for. But a CV, as we all know, because we're all involved with CVs, not of ourselves, um, are more academic, and it reflects accomplishments. It can reflect both, but it really focuses on the accomplishments of the person. So this is an anatomy of academic administrator CV. So I'm sure you guys have all done your own resumes, your own CVs, and you've seen those of our residents, fellows, and faculty. And an administrator CV is going to vary a little bit. It's definitely going to vary a lot from the resumes that you're used to writing for yourselves years before, but it's like a combination between that and the CVs we see from our faculty, and mush it together and make it more specific for us. So these are the areas that I like to focus on. When I first did this, when I first designed my CV in this way, um, it was because I was applying for TagMe, and years ago you had to have a properly formatted CV to apply for TagMe, and it was kind of similar to this. And I thought this is actually a really good template for developing my own CV as I progressed through my GME career. And so I've edited it through the years. So this is my personal suggestion. So you should always have your objective or your key area of interest. Obviously, CVs have the objective usually at the top, but you can also focus on your key area of interest. So maybe you're interested in being within a residency, maybe a fellowship, maybe more leadership, whatever. Employment positions as they relate to academia. So many of you have probably, you most likely, 99% of you have worked in positions that were not GME related or academically related. And it's okay to put a few of those on there if this is your first job within academia, but I really suggest that you focus on academia, which is something that I have done. Say you've worked position before that gave you skills for academia, but they weren't in academia. Like maybe you did like like you worked as a registrar or something like that, or you did data entry or whatever. You could relate those to that. Obviously, committees that you've been part of, meetings that you've attended as they relate to education, leadership opportunities that you had that can, and it doesn't have to be related to academia, site visits that you've been involved in, both the old school site, what I call the old school site visits, the internal reviews that used to happen, as well as CLARE visits that you've been involved in, and of course the 10-year self-study, both parts of the self-study, and also now that they're doing virtual site visits, that's a great thing to put in your CV, because these are all skills that are building your career as you go. Presentations, posters, any kind of papers, articles, say somebody interviewed you. I know there's at least a few out there that I have interviewed over the years. Other professional development items. For me, I have things like webinars. I put webinars under their own section only because there's just been so many lately. It used to be more unique. Now it's just all webinars. But another thing is because I've developed a couple of databases and websites. And so those are things that build my skills as an academic administrator. So those are my other PD items. So my suggestion is, and you're probably wondering, why is she talking about resumes and CVs when I thought I was hearing about professional development? And the reason for that is I always suggest to everybody, whether it be the us's of the world or the trainees or whatever, I always suggest to them, that the first step that you should do in figuring out what you want to do is by looking where you've been. And you do that by building your resume. and your CV. So first, you should redesign it into this CV format because you can better review it. Then analyze your brand new CV for the goals that you have. What have you done? What have you enjoyed? Maybe what do you want more experience of? And what haven't you done enough of? Oh, I jumped ahead of myself as always. Um, so analyze your CV, ask what you'd like to see more of. Um, are you including everything relevant? Are you applying for TagMe certification? What are their requirements? And the other thing that was on the tip of my brain a second ago, what will look at your career a little bit too, because the reason you're obtaining these things is you're helping to develop yourself and helping develop your career as it goes forward. And you may want to look at things like what is going to make me more marketable into the type of role that I want to be in. So finding opportunities. Like I said, look at your career and learning goals. What experience will help you look more impressive on paper to get people to call you in? What were you just wish you were just better at, what are some career goals and what will help you feel fulfilled? Now, I knew I wanted to be in GME leadership for many years. And the problem was finding that leadership experience was I didn't have many options when I first started doing these sorts of things. So the best options at that time was to get involved in committees and things like that. So these are all like even the things that you don't think are like directly related, they are. Now I'm going to cover that as we get involved here. So the way I've designed this is that I'm going to go through each of those experiences I kind of touched on earlier, and I'm going to talk about why each one will help you get to your goals. And then the next section, I'm going to talk about each individual one that I've already talked about, but I'm going to talk about like how do you get involved and what kind of time commitment and what can you expect out of it. So first one is committee involvement. And to me, I think this is the easiest thing to get involved in. So here we go. Where do you find these opportunities for committee involvement? You can find them literally everywhere. Within your own department, maybe there's a QI committee if that's something that you're interested in. Obviously, you sit on within many different communities committees because of your role that you do every day. There's institutional committees that you can get involved in. Look out to see what they are. They can be academically related, but they don't have to be. Maybe you're interested in getting involved in like employee engagement, and there's many committees that exist within institutions for those sorts of things. Regionally, check to see if you have regional GME organizations within your region. I know Massachusetts has MSAMA. Do my little MSAMA plug there. I don't know the names of some of the other ones that are still active right now, but of course I remember that one because I was part of it. But then not just GME. When I was really trying to get some leadership experience, I went on LinkedIn to see what was available within my community and within my interest level. And they had when I was in Boston, they had this group called the Boston Young Healthcare Professionals Group that I got involved in for a little bit, and that was actually very, very helpful. Even though it wasn't directly related to medical education, it was very useful and it was a great networking opportunity. So keep your mind open, and then also like things that you're just interested in, like if you have some hobbies. If you're like, for me, I'm an avid artist, so I get involved with community art groups and things like that, and those all count as well because you're still learning leadership experience by being involved in those things. Of course, nationally within your own specialty, but also outside of it. The GME Facebook group is always posting all sorts of things. We're getting all kinds of creative all of the time. And then TagMe, if you are certified by TagMe, they have many committees that you can get involved in. So time commitments, it depends on the type of committee and its length and things like that. But usually it's at the very least, it's 1 hour per month. So they have that hour that they're meeting and deciding what they're going to do next. And then there may be some committee work. So they may decide, okay, this is what we need to do before we meet next time. And then as you get involved in those things, how much you volunteer is how much more work it will be. But keep in mind that as much as you volunteer will affect your role in the committee. Obviously, committees do not want members that aren't doing anything and are just doing it so they can put something on their CVs. So keep that in mind. Some committees will be more aggressive about that sort of thing, and if you aren't doing the minimum, they will ask you to leave the committee. So learning objectives you can learn by being involved in this sort of thing are obviously you're learning about operational skills, how to team build and work with each other, leadership. Even if you don't hold like a chair or leadership position on that committee, you're still learning leadership skills because there's delegating involved, which of course I just jumped on delegating, and planning. Planning is a big one. I know we're already doing and learning planning things within our roles, but this gives you an opportunity to learn and plan with teams, which is something that you need as a leadership skill. Like I said, a lot of times we coordinators are an island on our own. And so this planning that we're doing, really, we're planning by ourselves. So it doesn't give us a lot of experience of like planning with teams, which is extremely important. So the next step would be naturally, okay, I've been on this committee for 5 years and there's now a position for leadership. So again, you find them in the same places. The possible time commitment is dependent on the committee and dependent on how the leadership of the committee is working and how well the committee is working together. So obviously it's more than just general committee members. For me, in my experiences, it's been about 4 hours a month when the committee is running properly. That is a big common problem within coordinator ran committees. That because we are so used to just taking on so much responsibilities within our day-to-day life, and we say, I'll handle that, I'll do that, whatever, that when it comes to committee leadership, this is why this is a great educational opportunity for you. You learn to really delegate and really like hold people accountable and things like that. So then if you have a committee of like 5 people and there's 2 leadership positions on there and all the leaders are doing all the work, that's not a very balanced committee. And vice versa, if the committee members are not doing enough. But most committee members are like, what can I do? That's why I'm here. What can I do? And you don't give them enough to do, they're going to feel bored and useless. And they're going to be like, why am I wasting my time? And they're going to move on. You're not going to be able to keep people on the committee. So you have to find that great balance. My suggestion from running so many different committees and doing it wrong and right and in between is like delegate everything possible to them, but then keep up and be able to support them in a professional manner. There's just some things you cannot delegate, but it depends on the committee again. Learning objectives. Again, operational again, and even more so because you are operationalizing everything. Team building, massive leadership experience, planning, and of course delegation is huge. So the next thing to get involved in is presentations. So presentations might be a first place that you look at, maybe instead of committee involvement. It also depends on your personality type and how comfortable you are in certain things. If you're somebody that is not comfortable speaking in front of people and that's just not really a route you ever want to go down, you might not want to do presentations. But if you want to overcome maybe that stage fright a little bit, presentations is a great way to do it and to build yourself up. I used to have major anxiety about like public speaking and that sort of thing. And I didn't want to. So I actually did a lot of these sorts of things to overcome that fear. And anybody who knows me now knows I no longer have that problem. And it's not just now because I'm talking to a computer screen. So presentations are, where can you find them? Again, literally anywhere. You can give presentations within your program. Perfect example, give a talk during your orientation. And if your program director is like, doesn't think that you're right for the job, say, hey, give me a chance because I want to overcome this and I want to put this on my CV. And usually that they will. It could be as easy. The first presentations I gave within GME, I gave some presentations outside of GME, but they were very few and far between. They were more art related and I was still not confident. And so what I did, the first thing I did was like, when we got our new fellows in, and it was only 1 or 2 fellows we had to start at a time. So it was a very small group. And I just told them how to use new innovations. And and for their perspective. And it was a safe place for me because it was my own fellows that I helped recruit. They already liked me, so I couldn't piss them off. I couldn't, like, no matter how poorly I did, I knew they would be supportive of me. So that's something to keep in mind when you're first giving these things. So within your program is a great opportunity. If you like, maybe you're doing an evaluation compliance project or something like that. And so I would get involved in giving presentations to my faculty at the faculty meetings every month, and just look. And it was a quick 5-minute presentation, but it really got me the skills and opportunity to overcome some of this in small little snippets. So it's great. It's a great opportunity. It doesn't all have to be official. I got an abstract submitted and blah blah blah, all that. It can be very informal as well. Obviously within your institution, especially considering if you have um, advisory groups or advocacy groups, that they're all usually most institutions are always looking for the coordinators to give best practices on various topics throughout the year. So look for those opportunities regionally again and nationally. The bigger deal group you're talking to, the more formal the submission process is going to be, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Time commitments, they're usually 2 phases of the work. There may be the abstract and then the prep. And I guess technically 3. That's stupid of me. The abstract, and usually that's like, hey, we want people to give presentations at the annual meeting, whatever. And then they say, fill out this form to tell us what you want to talk about, and then we'll judge if it's appropriate. And then if you get accepted, then you have the prep where you prep everything, and then obviously the presentation time. So it's not like everything happens in a lump of time or consistently like on committees. It's like when you're doing the abstract, there's a lot of work involved in it. Then you may not hear for a while, or you may not hear, or you may find out that it didn't pan out. So then that's all the work you had to do with that, or you get accepted, and then you're like, okay, now I have to prep. And so that will have a big lump of time, but you've already kind of done a lot of the work because of the abstract. And then of course the presentation time. And the presentation, all this is like one-time things. So unlike committees where you're doing it consistently, these are like one-time things. It could be several hours or days of prep work. And presentation time, of course, is usually around an hour, maybe less. Learning objectives that you learn here. Number 1, teaching. The teaching is the most important thing. So if you're somebody who wants to get involved in that, this is a great opportunity. Obviously planning, you have to do a lot of planning of what you're going to talk about, how you're going to teach people, developing your goals and objectives, all that sort of thing. Research, because you're going to want to find you want to make sure that what you're presenting is accurate and true, and you want to give people resources that they can ask for afterwards, or else you will personally get a lot of emails. You learn about abstract writing, which is a skill within and of itself. Obviously public speaking that I've already talked about. You learn using PowerPoint and presentations better. And then of course, leadership, because if you're doing a presentation team, you're learning skills about how to run that presentation team. All right, now is papers and articles, and these are non-peer review, meaning that these are not the ones that end up in journals. So you can find these anywhere. Newsletters are popular within your institution, department, or specialty, or national publications such as the Residency Program Alert. The Residency Program, I'm going to do a little plug of the Residency Program Alert. It's put on by HC Pro, which they do all kinds of healthcare related materials, and they focus a lot on our world, and there's a lot of publications out there and things like that on there. They are always looking for people to write newsletter articles, and they're wonderful to work with because you get the opportunity to work with the editors and go through that whole process. That is something kind of cool and neat, and then you get it published, and they send you the copy of it, so you have it for your portfolio and you can share it with whoever you want. And they're very easy to work with. They've worked with coordinators for many years. I've worked with them personally for, I guess it's been 11 years now. The first thing I ever did for them was they interviewed me. And now I'm on their editorial advisory board. So I worked with them for a very long time, and they've been wonderful to work with the whole time. Possible time commitment, it's usually a few hours per article. Um, if you're able to like jam at that article quickly and send it off, um, like say it took you only a half hour to write the article, and then you're able to send it off, and then there may be some edits, so there that may be up to like an hour or a few hours or whatever. Learning objectives, this is obviously informing, teaching, that sort of thing, and just share your best practices, what you've been through. Planning again, research again, and then of course writing, and then you learn about editing, which is a skill within and of itself. So papers peer review. This is a little more complicated. So at the time I originally gave this talk, I did not have a peer review yet, and I was working really hard just because it was the only box I hadn't ticked off yet. That was the only reason I wanted it. And now I have experienced it, and I can honestly say it's probably the only area that I probably should not do. It is not my forte. But this is how you do it. So so you find journals, your residents and faculty, they may have some ideas. It's great to get involved with the residents and faculty because they can teach you so much about the journal writing and research world, like so much. uh, Obviously, brainstorming, and then colleagues. Um, I'm not really sure why I wrote brainstorming. But anyways, possible time commitments. This is a very high time commitment. It can take weeks to months to years. Like I said, I worked really hard to get something. I worked on, I can't tell you how many projects, and for a reason, things fizzled out. That wasn't the right time. And there was one project that was so minor, and it took us 3 years to even get anything published. And the data was so old, it was uh, not ideal. Um, and then work here with your residents and faculty in your program for guidance. Like I said, learning objectives, obviously research. Research is a top learning objective in this. Planning, writing, and scientific writing, which is a whole nother world. And I think that this is probably why I'm not good at it. I am more of a creative writer type of person. Um, I've always addressed my writing as if I'm talking to you personally. And that has worked out very well for me, but you can't really do that when you do peer review. Editing, you learn the IRB processes. Teamwork is a huge thing, and leadership is a huge thing. These are a little bit harder to find if you are looking for something specific. Uh, Sometimes, I you could reach out to the editor and say, hey, I'd like to write a book, but there is like financial commitment on their part. And a lot of times you can actually, get compensation and things like that, but that means they have to have it within their budget to write what you're suggesting. So HC Pro, like I said, is a publisher that does these sorts of things. Um, and then specially may call for experts on things, if they're working on like a book as a contributor or whatever. Also, I highly suggest that if you have a really great idea for a book, just start writing it. Just start writing it and do what you can. And then when you're ready, submit it to a publisher like HC Pro. And if they turn it down, don't stop there. Keep going and submit it to a couple other publishers as well. Eventually, somebody will find it interesting. Um, so that's kind of what I've been doing. Possible time commitment. It is a high time commitment while you're writing, depending on how quickly the words flow from you. But you need to be able to put it in. It can take from months to years to write something, especially doing a full book. But yeah, I can tell you the book contributor thing is there's many ways you can contribute to a book, but if you get involved, like I said, get involved with HC Pro and writing for them for their newsletter, that can lead you into getting either a book deal or they will sometimes take those articles and they will put them into other books, of course, with your permission, of course. But yeah, that's happened to me. So, but learning objectives, again, sharing best practices, forming, teaching, planning, again, research, writing, depending on what kind of book contribution, it could be scientific writing, editing, and there could be possible financial incentives. I know my book that has been published, I get a little bit of the royalties. It's not a huge amount, but it's nice to get that check in the mail every 6 months that like can help offset some of my expenses. But it's not something to quit your day job. Posters are really, really easy and great to get involved in, and they have a very low time commitment. You can find them literally anywhere regionally. ACGME does call for posters. I don't know if they're called for posts. I think it closed. National specialty within education, and then national specialty within scientific, because you have your obviously education related specialties, but then they usually have like either like another separate organization that is like completely like it's the doctor's version of the conference. But as you know, they're all learning about education, so you could have a topic that it could be interesting for them. Time commitment, again, you have your abstract and prep, just like you do your presentations, but it's only one time per poster. You can go on to turn this into a manuscript and turn this into peer review. It can take from hours to days to weeks. And usually when you write the abstract, you're basically writing the poster. So by the time you get to the point that you're prepping the poster, it's usually no time at all. And of course, presentation time. And usually what they have at these meetings for the posters is there's like a 1 or couple hour commitment one time during that time that you have to stand next to the poster, and just it's really not even presentation. They call it poster presentation, but it's really not. It's a way for like you're standing by your poster, and as people stop by, you need to be ready to talk to them about the poster. That's the presentation. So learning objectives is informational, research, planning, writing, possibly scientific writing. My first abstract I ever wrote was for a poster submission. And it was challenging in the beginning, but like I said, get involved with your program faculty and residents. My program director, who was an avid researcher, she was very, very helpful in helping me learn it. And I'm forever grateful to her for these things. Editing, obviously, presentation, teamwork, if you have a group, and leadership. So TagMe certification. At this time, TagMe certification is the only certification available for coordinators. And the only place you will find this is from TagMe, and you can go to their website, which is tagme.org. Possible time commitment. It is a large time commitment. It takes 2 years of prep work, and the requirements change. And like I said, I did this presentation 3 or 4 years ago. So it's been a little bit of time here. So they may have updated it, but it can take up to a year of studying and exam prep. They usually do the exam in 2 different cycles, and it's a 5-year cycle, and you have to keep doing this every 5 years. And then there is continuing education that is required as part of your certification status. So learning objectives is, most importantly, this is personal enrichment. You can learn about planning, obviously, leadership, and really just learning your job, because that's really what TagMe is all about. So now that you know what to expect, and you may be looking at 1 or 2 of these things and saying, I'm interested in doing that. How do I get involved, Chris? Well, I'm going to answer that question. So we're going to go through each of those areas again, just like I promised, but I'm going to help you understand what to expect. So for committee involvement, networking memberships appropriate to your goals. They'll usually do a call for members. You'll pick your committee wisely. Join committees that will use your skills or help you learn new skills. So if it's something that like you know how to do, you're good at it, you've done it like a million times, but you're just really over it and you don't want to do it anymore. For a while there, I was doing, because I went to school for graphic design, so I have a lot of skills, and those I was doing a lot with websites, and I was kind of really overdoing it. Like I didn't want to do it anymore because I'd done it so much, and I really just wanted to use my time more wisely, and to learn other skills and to get involved in other things that I wanted to become stronger in. So I turned down those committees. They weren't always happy with me, but I did. You're going to get to that point, like in the beginning when you're doing these things. I suggest you say yes to any opportunity, just to build up your CV a little bit. But eventually, people are going to get to know you, and They're going to say, hey, she did that before. I'm going to ask her to do it again. And it's fine for a while, but don't overwhelm yourself. This is all about wellness as well. And so you should pick things that are appropriate for you. I wouldn't suggest in the beginning, as you're getting to be known, to turn down things, because then maybe people may not come to you for other opportunities that you are interested in. And this is, again, your first step to committee leadership. So committee leadership, you'll find this through networking memberships that are appropriate with your goals. They'll do a call for leadership. Usually they look at people that serve as general members to the committee first, and then you can be chosen as the next leader. So it could be as easy as that. Presentations. So you'll hear for a call for presentations, workshop abstracts, or opportunities within your program institution, like I touched on before. Look at any guidelines for submission for the more formal ones. Plan your topic and your co-presenters. Submit abstract. Have a mentor review it that is not involved in the planning. Once approved, start planning. Make it fun and interactive as much as possible. I can't tell you how much feedback I get from people that are in presentations that are this style, but this is online, so it's different. I try to make mine as fun as interactive as possible, because usually these people are saying these things for long periods of time, and you want to help support networking among the groups. And that's just part of learning and education. Practice the heck out of it, because the more you practice it, the more you can say it in your sleep with your eyes closed and things like that, the more confident you are, and it will help you overcome that stage fright a little bit. Have supporting resources available, things like citations, worksheets, examples, resources, that sort of thing. And then you present. And then always allow opportunities for questions, discussion, and things like that, especially if you're talking about a topic that is very controversial. Like the coordinator burnout is a good example. So papers and articles that are not peer review. Look for opportunities. Find out what the guidelines for submission are, if any. Plan your topic and co-authors, if applicable. Develop your outline. That's the first thing to do. Be like, develop your outline, say, these are the things I want to talk about, and then fill in the gaps after that. That's how I always start to write. Cite sources when appropriate, submit, and there could be several cycles of editing. So papers for peer review. You want to develop your topic or question. It's a little backwards. Instead of like looking for the opportunity and saying, hey, we're looking for peer review. They're always looking for peer review. So you have to do that part. But you develop your topic or question, you develop your team, your co-authors, and have mentors in place. About this, I want to mention that usually when you get involved in a team of either coordinators or people that don't do this a whole lot, like physicians, make sure you know from the beginning who's going to be first author, second author, and so on and so forth, because each one is important and means something, and those people could be getting involved with this paper for that particular reason. So I was involved recently in a situation that we did not do that, because it was a bunch of non-physician people, and then at the end, because we were a very equal team, everybody had an equal part in it, and then when it came time of who was first and second author, a lot of people that it really didn't matter to them, they just wanted to be involved in the process, did get sideswiped because a couple of people, it was very important for their job role that they were in certain positions. So that should have been something that was discussed in the beginning. The first thing you should do is a literature review. After you've figured out your topic, what exists out there, because you don't want to put all this time and attention into something that maybe somebody's already written about it. Design your process. Is it going to be a survey, a literature review, process review, QI, and how you're going to do it. You're going to have to submit your IRB submission. Even if you think it's exempt, you should still submit for your IRB submission. Follow the process based on the design. So like the next thing is, after you've done all of this, you'll follow your process of what you've designed, and then find out your intended publication. Before you write a single word, find out where you find your plan of attack of how you plan to submit. And I say that because usually you may have something in mind, like maybe Journal GME, which is very popular for us to submit things to, and you're going to send it to them. And then the you have to have a plan in place. Like, what if it's not made for them? What if they turn it down? And so what you need to do is have a plan of attack. Okay, if they don't accept it, where am I going to go next? And where am I going to go next? So, and you don't want to, you don't want to pick these publications based on like what you know or where you want your name. You want to pick these publications based on what are you talking about and how are you going to get this information out to the right group of people that you think need to hear it. Usually when it comes to peer review, you can only publish these things in one place. You can't publish them in more than one place. I should say that about posters too. Check with the guidelines and things like that, because sometimes posters, they will say, if you're presenting this poster here, you can't present it anywhere else. Doesn't mean you can't write a paper on it later, but you can't reuse the poster in more than one place, or even the information from the poster. They don't, when you do these publications and stuff, they kind of own it a little, not really own it, but you know, they're the one that's taking a chance on publishing it and putting in the resources. So they're not going to want you to publish it in more than one place. So once you figure out where you're going to publish it, find out what the guidelines of that publication is, and then that's how you will write your paper. And then write. And of course, you're going to submit. You may need to redesign, edit, things like that. And usually the thing that makes, for those of you that don't realize, the thing that makes peer review is you may submit this paper and it may go to the editor initially and things like that. But in the end, the approvals all come through your peers. That's why it's called peer review, because what it is you're writing on this topic that other peers are going to hopefully know about or know close enough information about, and they find people that are within that grouping or whatever, that they decide that that they want them to be anonymous peer reviewers. And that's what they are. They're anonymous. So when you get that feedback, you never know who gave you that feedback. So any of you that have been involved enough that you know people that have done peer review and things like that, usually your physicians have and stuff like that, ask them about their experiences from that point of view to help you better understand it. Books and book contributors, look for opportunities or write it on your own, like I suggested before. Develop your topic, develop your team and co-authors if you're going to have them, and have mentors in place for the process of maybe somebody who's been through this before. Figure out what publisher guidelines are, develop an outline just like you write your paper, start your writing, submit, and then edit. Posters, there'll be a call for posters. You want to see what their guidelines for submission are, and then you plan your topic or co-presenters. You may have like data already in place, and it can be that same data that you had, like maybe you had something that you were going to do peer review for and you did a survey and it just flopped on, and for whatever reason it didn't go through and get accepted to a paper, or you didn't submit it for whatever, there's many reasons why. And then you're like, well, I do want to get this information out here, so I want to put it on a poster. So you may already have the data. Then you submit your abstract. Again, have a mentor review it. You've seen me say several times, have a mentor review these things. I always tell people when they ask about like how to develop good mentorship programs. And my biggest suggestion is you should have your career mentor. This is a whole nother topic, but you should have your career mentor, and you should have more than one mentor. So you should have mentors for different things that you do. For one thing, it doesn't put a lot of strain on that one mentor who's already doing their own job anyways, but also it helps you get specialized opinions and feedback from several different sources and learning from several different ways people do things. Once approved, you're going to design the layout, which is usually scientific, and it's based on the guidelines. And then you develop your poster, submit for printing based on guidelines, and then you present it. TagMe certification. So like I said, you need to go to tagme.org for your requirements, make a plan and be ready, start your application. You can submit the application. They'll usually send an approval for it. Study. Then you take your qualifying exam, and then you take your certifying exam, which are two separate exams. And I'm not going to go into the details of that. You can find that on TagMe's website or from other TagMe qualified people. Wait for any approval of that you passed. Celebrate, have a drink, and then plan your continuing education and professional development over the next 5 years. So for their help and resources, reach out to your coordinator networking groups, seek out mentorship like I touched on. These are just a few links on the specific areas that give tips. These are not an exhaustive list, but just some to get you started. There is my consulting website, but it's not currently up. And then these are just some tips from Dale Carnegie. That these are very old tips, but they are tested and true, and so I want to go over them. But professional development can also be part of your personal development. So these are kind of 7 secrets to it that help you manage what you're going to do. Only you can take charge of your personal development. Nobody can make you do it, and we can't make anybody else do it. Development is a very personal process, like I've already discussed. Success often occurs in places where you least expect it, as I'm sure we have all experienced. I know I have. Focus on the little things around you, not just the bigger picture. So like, like that's great, like for QI stuff, like if a process isn't working, you want to make it work better. That can turn into a really big professional development opportunity for yourself. Improve your listening skills will help make you a better communicator. Never stop learning new skills and practicing basic ones. I've already touched on that one. And success starts with failure and is a trial and error process. That's so important. So don't make yourself feel bad. I know there's been several things that I really, really, really wanted to get, and I didn't get them, and I was very disappointed. And I'm a true believer of everything happens for a reason. All right. And I encourage you to have discussion in the comments here so that we can have a good discussion on anything here, or ask any questions or whatever. And then this is my cell phone number and my work email. Should you have any questions about this or anything else, I am always happy to help out fellow coordinators. And thank you very much for listening and taking the time.